Welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you a new little project that I'm starting. I am going to be making a little cottage. I will still be working on the Western hotel, but sometimes I just want to make something that's pretty. And I miss working with some of my very favorite materials, recycled cardboard boxes, paper, definitely for sure, cereal boxes, and masking tape. I love masking tape. These were the supplies that I learned to work with long ago when I first started miniatures. I'm starting off by cutting the front of my cottage. Here I'm just checking the measurements. I want it to be 9 inches wide. It's going to be realistic but also kind of fantasy-like in a way. I want the walls to be double thickness, and I'm going to make the lines in the cardboard go horizontal for one piece and vertical for another for strength. While I'm cutting my walls out to make sure they're the same size, since they're double thickness, I'm going to tape them to each other. I trim away the extra cardboard on the side, and then I need to figure out the roof pitch. So here's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to visualize how much of a pitch I can have with the wall height that I want. My plan is to put a Western video one week and then this cottage video, something for it on the other week, and alternate it like that. That way it kind of breaks up the Western a little bit and gives me a chance to make some pretty things. Get ready, because I plan to put a lot of plants and flowers in here. At least that's what I'm visualizing. I hope that I can make it happen. Once I had the roof pitch figured out, then I drew out where my windows and my door would go. And here I'm just punching them out. It's easier for me to cut the window and push it out since the cardboard is not glued together and I don't have to cut through that dried glue layer. I always work better visually, so sometimes I'll pause and just hold up my wall or whatever and try to visualize it. Even though I will draw out plans on paper, I just work better that way where I can see it. I also have a really bad habit of wanting to put in really large windows, and then there's not enough wall space left to do anything on the inside. I've made several mistakes that way in the past and couldn't do anything with the structure once I started to decorate. So with this little cottage, I'm trying to be really mindful of not putting too many windows and keeping the windows down to a smaller size. I love windows in my real life, and I keep my curtains wide open and even my windows open when the weather is cool enough. And during the summer, I have to keep the curtains closed a lot of the times, or the blinds closed, and so I'm trying to make sure those windows don't turn out too big in this cottage. I use these weird pieces from the cardboard that have the natural bends in them for the flooring. While I was checking my wall with the floor, I don't know what measurement I was looking at, but I was off quite a bit. So I need to repair this. So I took one of the flaps from one of the boxes and I just added it on with some masking tape. And then I'm adding my correct measurement now. And I'm double checking to make sure this time. Once I was sure, then I went ahead and finished cutting my floor piece. And now all of my cottage walls and floor are cut except for the ceiling or the roof. And I'm going to temporarily hold each wall up to the other one that it will be joining onto, just to double check all my measurements and to visualize if I will be happy with that look. The next step, I'm going to pull the walls apart from each other and glue them together. I'm just using Elmers Glue All, and I'm putting on a normal amount of glue. I'm not trying to go super heavy with it, just enough to hold them together. I was getting ready to use my new paintbrush from the new paintbrushes that I bought, and it was loose and it just came apart. So I had to use some masking tape to temporarily hold it together until I get a chance to glue it. After I glue them together, I weight them down for a while to let the glue dry and to hopefully cut down on some warping. I used to paint each side with a layer of Mod Podge first to help cut down on the warping, but then I started to just use masking tape because I like masking tape. I cover all of the edges and the walls in the masking tape. Besides my love for masking tape, the reason why I really think I started using the masking tape was instead of the Mod Podge was because I love to paper mache, and I figured that the masking tape acts like a protective coating so that the water can't soak into the moisture in the paper mache paste can't soak into the cardboard. And I didn't have a lot of problems when I paper macheed with any warping, and I think it was because I did cover everything with the masking tape. Except for one exception, and that is the base. For some reason, even covering it with the masking tape, it will still warp if you're paper macheing. I'm showing you some parts of a 1/6 scale house that I had built and had on Instagram. I don't use my Instagram anymore, but if you would like to take a look, I believe the Instagram name was Tiny World, and I'll leave a link for it in the description if you'd like to look at this house. And it's nearly almost 10 years old, and I used quite a bit of masking tape, and I had to use box cutters to break this down to cut it apart because it was so sturdy. And I'm mentioning this because I've had a few people mention in comments about masking tape pulling away from itself, and I wonder if it has a lot to do with maybe where you live. Maybe you have a lot of humidity. Maybe you have a lot of heat. Maybe it was exposed to a lot of heat or left in the sun. I'm really not sure, but then again, it's made out of cardboard, and I don't expect this to last forever. It's a way for me to be creative, but without breaking the bank. I created this wallpaper in Silhouette Studio, and I'm gluing it to poster board to help keep the tape lines and the cardboard lines from being so noticeable. On my old West Hotel for the walls, I used 2-way stick tape, but this is how I normally do it. I just use the glue stick, and then I just use Elmer's Glue All to glue it down to the wall. I would love to hear your favorite way of applying your wallpaper to your walls. After I glue the wallpaper down to the wall, I will usually put it under something heavy to weight it down while it's drying. On this wall, when I weighted it down, I started to think that I did not label the inside or the outside of my walls, and I thought, please don't tell me that I put the wallpaper on the wrong side. And yes, sure enough, I did. So thank goodness the glue was still kind of damp, and I had to really work quickly to try to remove as much as I could and then re-glue the correct side down. I was really concerned that the wall was going to look lumpy or the wallpaper would be distorted or smeared or something. And then I even took my bone folder and smoothed over it, and thank goodness everything came out okay, and you can't even tell that it happened. And now the fun part, the walls go up. So I'm putting a little bit of glue on the edge. I didn't think this through if I was going to glue the wall to the inside or the outside. So I think I had to make a quick choice, and it caused me to lose about 3/8 of an inch in that corner. But it was better than making it narrower, if that makes sense. When I glue a wall on, I like to put a bunch of tape as reinforcement in the corners and on where it attaches to the floor. And here's how the cottage is looking now. Thankfully, I'm not noticing too much warping, or any warping actually. And now it's time for me to create a template of the floor. And the piece of copy paper wasn't wide enough, so I took an extra strip and I'm taping it down so I can get the exact width of the room. And then I'm going to press and kind of fold the edge to get a line to give me the depth of the room. I go ahead and I cut that off now at this time. I'll still need to put it back in so that I can catch that little bit of floor that's under the door. I'm going back and forth in my decision if I want to put the flooring up under the door or not. But I decided to go ahead and add that little lip just in case I change my mind and I do want to have it. I take my floor template and I lay it over a piece of poster board, and I'm tracing it out now because that's what I'm going to glue my flooring down onto. And here I'm showing that I had to The tape was there because I had to splice 2 pieces of poster board together. Now that I've cut out my floor base, I need to check the size again to make sure that it fits perfectly. And I see that it's catching just a little bit up in the left corner by that corner in the door. So I'm just trimming off. It's just like a sliver or two. I had an old cutting mat that I knew that I was going to be throwing away. So I cut out my tile design, and then I shaved off some chalk pastels in the colors that I wanted my floor to be, and I'm using a makeup applicator to rub it into the tiles. I didn't want to start off on one of the edges, so I found the center of my floor and I started my first tile in that area. I did not have to ink the edges of each one of my tiles because I cut them on my old mat. Applying the pastels that way, it just naturally darkens the edges of them. This was the reason why I wanted to do the flooring experiment from a previous video, because I pictured actually making the floor blue, but then I kept thinking it needed to be terracotta, so I'm glad I did, because I think that color is going to work out a lot better in that room than the blue, and definitely more than the pink. It took me probably a couple of sittings to get all the tiles glued down. That's why it wouldn't be worth it to do it in a whole dollhouse, just in a small space. I designed and cut my windows out using my Silhouette. I use cereal box. I have never cut cereal box before on my Silhouette. It seemed to cut okay. I did notice that it was better if I had the color side down than the color side up. I tried it with the color side up first, and it didn't always cut all the way through. I don't know if that was because of this, of the cereal box brand, because that was something I wanted to mention. If you buy the Mom's Best cereal, I think that could have been part of the problem. And also when the window was completely glued together, all the layers, it just seemed very soft and bendy still. While I was trying my windows in some of the window openings, I noticed that this tape was creating a problem. So I wish I had never stuck the tape in the windows, because I had to dig it out of all of them. And trying to remember back, I don't think I did put tape on the inside of the windows. I wanted to put some pastels around the windows to give it some depth, so I picked out this rusty orange, rusty brown color. I tried pink on its own and it was too harsh, and then I added some pink with the rusty brown, but I still like the rusty brown best. I like the way it added some aging to it too, because I don't want it to look brand new. I decided on my floor that I wanted to add a little bit of inking on the edges so you wouldn't see the white cut edge. I'm very happy that I picked the terracotta color instead of the blue, but I wouldn't have known it if I didn't do the test. I like the warm feeling that it gives it, and I can't wait to add some plants and flowers in here. My paper wasn't wide enough to go all the way to the corners, but it's okay because I think I'm going to be covering it with some furniture and things. And I'm just going to splice in some, and it doesn't matter if it matches the pattern correctly. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to finish the door in this video, so that will have to come next time. And this is the little blue hutch that I made from a previous video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.